So in last week's video, I made this silver spinner ring, which I feel turned out quite well. So in today's video, I'll be making a spinner ring with a slightly different design as well as implementing some gold. So I'll be starting with this wider sheet of silver, which is around 15mm wide and 0.8mm thick, and use a pair of ring pliers to shape it. Once the metal has taken shape, and I get both ends to meet nicely, I can solder them together. So this is going to be the base ring of which will support and hold the others. And now that it's soldered, I can use a mandrel to bring out the circular shape. And then file the surface as well as sand down the inside. Once the ring is sanded down, I can take the remaining strips, which consist of 3 silver and 2 gold, all at 3mm wide and 0.5mm thick, and wrap them around the ring we have just made. So it appears I ordered these strips a little too short. It's not a major issue as I can stretch them out once they're soldered. So once they're in a ring shape, I make sure that the ends are meeting flush and then solder them in place. Once soldered, I use a mandrel in the same manner as before and line it up against the base of the ring to see how much they need stretching. In order to stretch them, I place them on the mandrel, and instead of using a wooden hammer, I use the flat head of a metal hammer to expand the metal. And with a few passes I managed to get the rings to fit. The next job is to remove the hammer marks from the rings. And we can now get a first look as to what we can expect as a finished result. In order to level the rings and take off a little size, I secure some 240 grit emery paper to a flat piece of wood and run the rings up and down. Obviously I'll focus more on the silver rings for size reduction, but will gently go over the gold rings to ensure both sides are flat and level. Once I'm happy with the clearance between the rings, I go about marking out a centre line for the base ring with some calipers. Knowing the width is 15mm, I set them to 7.5 and mark a centre line. I then bring the calipers in a couple of millimeters and mark a line on each side. So by the end I have 3 guidelines, which will help line up and solder one of the silver rings right in the centre. So when I soldered this ring, I essentially tacked it in place in 2 spots at opposite ends and soldered all around after. Once soldered in place, I file it down and use a square file to help redefine the edges. Once filed, I sand it down and then have a little test fit. So now all the rings are made and ready to be assembled, but before I do, I go about polishing them. And in a similar manner to the previous spinner ring, I make a number of indents around where the outer rings sit. This will prevent them from spinning or coming off. And once they are hammered down, we get a look at the finished product. And just as the first spinner ring I made, I'm very happy with how this one's turned out. And that's all I have for today. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time.